Today we're going to talk about Wu Wei, in particular Wu Wei from the Tao Te Ching, which is the first Taoist text, really the seminal Taoist text, and it's very, very short, but has a whole lot to offer. This is part of the Important Ideas in Philosophy series, and Wu Wei is one of my favorite ideas. It's one of the things that I always try to live by, and I always try to remind myself when I'm really struggling, when I really feel like I'm moving aimlessly and purposelessly. To summarize Taoism very quickly, it's the idea that there's a universal order to things, that things occur as they are meant to, and it's just part of the way. That's roughly what the Tao translates to, the way. The Tao Te Ching begins with, the Tao that is spoken cannot be the eternal Tao because it is able to be conceived, whereas there is something that exists far beyond any human comprehension that we never quite could put our fingers on. And that's really what the Tao Te Ching tries to describe. That's really what it tries to get at. It does it through the form of paradox, through the form of almost philosophical poetry and verses. And it really is a very interesting book. And it's something that's very short, but it's not something that you'll read once and you get. It's something that you have to ponder. It's something that you have to live by. And that's the most interesting facet of Taoism, is that there's not really such thing as a Taoist temple. There's Taoist masters, but it's all about finding your own path. It's all about finding your own way. It's all about living your life in the moment. And that brings us to the most important idea, which is called Wu Wei, which basically means no action. And I don't necessarily like to think of it like that. I like to think of it as effortless action, because the idea of no action is just the idea of no resistance. That you don't go through your life with any sort of hesitation, that you're not double guessing yourself, that you're not afraid, that you're not moving through life with any sort of hindrance on what it is that you want to do, that you have so much presence, you have so much awareness, that you have so much peace of mind that you move every moment without even thinking. There's no such thing as a stressful thought. There's no such thing as an anxious thought. There's no such thing as you being afraid or you not doing anything that you want to do. And that to me is one of the most inspiring ideas, because really what he's talking about here, the author is Lao Tzu, by the way. It's theorized if he existed or if he didn't exist. Not very important. The ideas are still tremendously interesting. But basically what Lao Tzu is saying here is that if you lose yourself in the action, that is the purpose of life. Like, the more you think, the more you disassociate yourself from happiness. But if you are purely in the moment, if you are purely acting, that is the most enjoyable life could ever be. Think of the best times in your life. Was it the times where you were thinking about the things you had to do? Were you thinking about the future? Were you thinking about the past? Or were you just living in the moment? And the answer always is that you lose yourself in the activities that you enjoy the most. Whether it's sports, whether it's video games, whether it's, you're just spending time with your family. Like, the best times in our lives are the times we lose ourselves, the times that we're not thinking, the times that we're just acting. And how do we get to that state? How do we lose ourselves in the activities? How do we get over the anxiety and the fears of life? I think one of the central ideas I like to come back to is from Seneca. We suffer more in our own minds than we do in reality, meaning that whatever we build up in our head is far worse than what it ever actually could be. And I think this is a central idea to come back to time and time again, especially when you're stressed out, especially when you're worried, especially when things aren't going quite according to plan. And there's something about acting. There's something about doing something without fear. There's something about responding in the moment without any sort of, hindrance, without any sort of, regret or resistance or any sort of anything holding you back. How have you faced problems when you're stressed out? Probably not as well as you faced them when you were completely calm. Probably not as well as you faced them if you weren't even worrying about things. There's all these stories of people, making fake trading accounts and practicing with fake money and making a whole lot of money. But when it comes to the real thing, when it comes to really investing with your own money, then you don't do as well because you put a pressure behind it. You put a importance behind it. But if you just lost that importance, you would perform just as well as you did when you had that fake account, when you were making trades with fake money. It's the same thing with blackjack. A lot of people lose blackjack because they'll get very anxious, very fearful, and they stop playing by the book. you realistically should go 50-50. You should lose like 1%, 2% over time with blackjack. But if you're playing with fear, if you're not playing by the book, if you're not playing by the rules, then you're going to blow all your money because you weren't listening to the reason, you weren't listening to the logic. And that's basically what we're doing with life. And that's really what the idea of Wu Wei is, to get us back towards living in the moment, living without resistance, living without fear, living and just living. Don't think about things, don't stress about things, don't worry about things. Just lose yourself in the activity, and that intuition, that pure presence, that pure moment will always allow you to make the best decision, will always allow you to make the best decision for yourself. Where would you be if you were guided by your internal compass? I promise you, you would be a lot further down the line. And that's the idea of Wu Wei, put very simply. Second video in the series, I think. Yeah, second video in the series of important ideas in philosophy. This is a great, great, great book. Really urge you to pick it up. Love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much. Peace out. Catch you next one.